Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video requested by a viewer by Mandalore Gaming, Kingdom Under Fire. Alright, let's start. 3, 2, 1.
It's the...
I'm sure there are people out there who thought this game was a dream. Kingdom Under Fire: The Crusaders is a tactical RTS, action, hack and slash, RPG, something, that was an Xbox exclusive in 2004. Then, 16 years later, it got an official PC port. Better late than never, huh? This is a very basic port because, yeah, you can technically play with mouse and keyboard now, but that's like saying technically you can skip work if you light yourself on fire. I mean, you could, but this is a game you play with a controller. The only fancy new visuals are that you can turn up your shadow resolution. By just starting a game, you are treated to a huge amount of lore. That's because Crusaders is a sequel. So while I'd wager most people know this game and Heroes, I'm gonna go over the weird road this franchise has taken. In 2001, we've got Kingdom Under Fire: A War of Heroes. It didn't sell well in the West, but did very good in Korea. That could be because this game and the entire franchise is Korean. What's clear is that A War of Heroes desperately wanted to be a Blizzard game. It tried to combine both Warcraft and Diablo, and it wasn't so good at that. It also started with a huge lore dump, and combining the mistranslations and weird writing, a lot of finer details will become borderline incomprehensible. The Shrek storybook in Crusaders does cover the big point. There was a war between good and evil, and a mysterious relic called the Ancient Heart. If you see the heart, or touch the heart, or think about the heart, you turn evil. How the fuck do you beat that? Apparently the answer is God gets really pissed off and gets rid of it. So where the battle and heart smiting took place is now known as the Holy Ground. Okay, but a quick side note, the Ancient Heart also resurrected and created this world's version of Sauron. We've had Kmart Sauron, actual Sauron, now make way for Baywatch Sauron. The Overlord of the Dark...
Sauron, part of Lord of the Rings, right? I think that's what it is about. Lord of the Rings, yeah. I'm not sure.
Legion is Rick Blood. Master of the Orcs in Darkness, Rick. A War of Heroes is mainly generic fantasy.
They lived together peacefully for many prosperous centuries, until the day a great evil arose.
So when the first game is like this, it makes Crusaders so much stranger. You go from a typical old man talking about the Magic Kingdom, to I'm desperately trying to find the outhouse at a Metallica cover band venue. That's a bold new direction, and as I'll talk about soon, they kind of pulled it off. But we're not done yet. With its mix of strategy and action and constant metal music, I don't get Blizzard clone out of this like I did with the War of Heroes. Instead, it's we believe the Waygugin will find this hardcore. Also, we're really gunning for the best.
Wait. They put metal music in their game? Okay. So it's like a Tekken game or a Street Fighter game, or I don't know. It kind of looks like a 2001, 2002 kind of game. You know, the cinematics, even the mechanics. You know, the way the people are moving. It just kind of reminds me of PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 kind of games. Yeah. Okay.
Seal of approval this year. And maybe the year after, because then they released a follow-up just called Kingdom Under Fire: Heroes, which is basically the same game but with some new campaigns and refinements. This one's gonna come up again. On 360, they made Kingdom Under Fire: Circle of Doom, which removed the RTS elements entirely to make it a hack and slash. This didn't go over well, but you could play as a crying elf girl who could kill enemies with her tears. I have no clue. So for Kingdom Under Fire 2, let's bring back the RTS stuff and make it an MMO. I'm gonna level with you. I have no idea what's going on in the series. So if something weird in Crusaders is explained somewhere else, I probably won't know about it. They tried to sell this as mainly standalone, and we'll see how they did. Going back to the intro, the game's premise looks pretty simple.
Don't believe me? I'll show you. Check out these delts.
Oh no.
Oh, God.
This reeks of the Hex.
Gerald, we must go. Essa needs to be warned.
Wait! Look!
Make them pay with their blood.
Swing away, boys!
Just wipe out the enemy, you'll be golden. After the lore dump, you have two campaigns to choose between. The human soldier Gerald, who is basically tutorial man, and Lucy, the dark elf of the Dark Legion. By beating hers, you unlock a hard campaign for each faction. The hard campaigns do expect a lot more out of you compared to the base ones. It is weird that almost half the game is just preparing you for hard. It does try to ease you into the experience, but it almost goes too slowly. Gerald's missions can be so leisurely that they're basically a different game compared to Kendall's, but I'll get into that in a bit. Visually, Crusaders does some impressive things for an Xbox title. It blows my mind how many characters you can have on screen fighting at once. This was later in the console's life cycle, so they've gotten pretty good at optimizing it, but wow. It does look like the draw distance was improved for PC, but even in the immediate area, it's an intense amount of action. A lot of maps are still drowning in fog. It's not as short as something like Morrowind, but it's a less detailed world. It basically had to be to make this many characters work. Even with that, there were some times where I thought the fog added mystique to a level. A forest becomes ominous, a giant creature looks like something straight out of the mist. I still wish they bumped it up more for the PC.
Okay, so they chose quantity over quality. I guess it's understandable because like Mandalore Gaming just said that, you know, they had to sacrifice something for all of these fighters to be, you know, available in the game like this, because it really does look like a war zone that you're fighting in there. So I guess it's understandable then why the environment looks so poorly made. It looks poorly made, but I think it's understandable because of all these other mechanics that are added into the game. So yeah, okay, I understand.
PC version, but it has its moments. Bad ones too, because the terrain generally is barren, and all the trees and rolled objects don't look nice either and will mainly get in your way. Sometimes there are more filled-in areas, but the biggest battles will never be here. The more a map looks like the Gobi Desert, the better chance you have of getting a big fight. The units themselves are good models for an RTS game. All of the officers and named characters also get some extra detail. Ironically, it's the cutscenes where the weaknesses really show up because they put the camera right in their faces, while they're just doing their flap, breathing animation thing. They can look like nightmare people, which I don't think was the intention. Still, there is some unique art direction to be found. For once, the Forces of Good got most of the varied and more interesting designs. The Dark Legion mostly has similar flavors of orc. There's green, greener, undead. The Dark Elves don't have much variation either, which, you know, I give them a pass. The true big issue is the camera. It was mainly a huge issue in Gerald's campaign, but that could be because his had the most trees in it. The angles you can have depend on where you are in the map, so even adjusting it, you can still be blocked off. Sometimes the camera wants to be in the stratosphere. Sometimes it wants to dig for worms. Usually it's fine and you don't need to adjust it too much, but it adds randomness and unpredictability in sometimes crucial moments. Sometimes you walk through the woods fine, sometimes you can't see. That said, it's really the sound that stuck out to me. With the exception of the main menu, every single song in the game is metal. I can't stress enough how constant it is. Hearing about the story, mission briefings, the missions, all metal.
Sappers and catapults are to concentrate on destroying their barricades. The rear line will attack the main enemy forces and give cover to the sappers and catapults.
Okay, at least they have a beat behind it, you know. It's not just a cacophony of noise. It actually has a beat behind it. So okay, I will enjoy it. But every day though. Okay, yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. I like it.
Now, I'm not a huge metalhead, and I don't know how accurate I can be here. The game does have a lot of music I liked. They were not shy about the soundtrack. They go so big with it that I'm actually shocked there were no songs with lyrics in them. It wouldn't be out of place.
Move! This way!
All through, attack. Stay calm and take down that brute. Don't be afraid.
are times when it does chill out, but it's not that often. Subjectively, sure I wouldn't listen to heavy metal back-to-back for hours on end, but this could be someone's dream game in that regard. The issue is the rest of the sound. For the Xbox, this game has some really fucked up audio compression. Even after fiddling with audio sliders, the mixing is just terrible. But the worst part is when a fight is over.
Good. We got it. Oh my god, it's fucking Lego!
The cheering overlaps per troop unit, and if you lose in a fight like this, oh my god. If your waveform becomes a solid wall, it's time to fucking start over again. To add an extra layer of madness, it's only a sometimes deal. The actual battle soundscape is perfectly fine. There can be low quality effects that stick out as being bad, but they're not grating. Even the victory cheers will often sound normal. How it's layered is still bad, but you're not expecting an attack. So the issue is you have constant, pretty average to subpar battle sounds, combined with an occasional nuclear strike in your ears, and the whole time, metal music is playing. The music does come together with the action sometimes, and it's very cathartic, but the game is such a noise hurricane I can only play it in bursts. Oh right, the voice acting.
Look at the sun. If there truly is a god, he is on our side today.
I think he just needs to lower the music volume as well as the ambiance volume of the game, and maybe he will be able to play it okay. Yeah. Or maybe that doesn't help. Maybe there's no option like that. Oh gosh.
Now this will be the last briefing for today's mission, so listen well.
Have you ever seen hogs do anything right the first time? Ever? Now see to it. What did you do in the war? I babysat pigs, that's what. This sucks.
Gerald, I object to leaving our border post to attend Mass at Youngsburg.
Well, it's orders, and we live to serve.
At first I thought that was a glitch, but no.
Insulting this insulting God.
The Cadus would leave to the holy ground, and the Papal Army
They're censoring the word Pope by just cutting the audio.
was the deal between
What?
them.
He's a major player too, so this is bizarre. It does explain why you can't turn off the subtitles or else you'd miss part of the story. Characters will also say capital G God, but the captions change it to the God lowercase. It'll mess up sentence structure too, like someone had just used Control F for the script. This is clearly some last-minute censorship. And for everything people could get on the Catholic Church for, just mentioning the Pope, maybe a few hundred years ago in some select cities, but not in 2004. South Korea did and still does have a significant Christian population there, so I thought maybe they were pushing the boundary of some kind of local law, but no. From what I found, at the last second the developers were terrified that including the Pope would offend Westerners. You can't exactly remove him from the story at this point when he's so integral, so they clipped all audio mentioning him, and in subtitles he's just the patriarch. Boy, if only they knew where things would be so soon. Anyway, the PC release also included the option for the original Korean voice acting, which seems way better technically and delivery-wise.
For this we have been bled white. Soldiers, behold, the holy ground.
우리가 흘린 피에 대한 보상이다. 제군들, 보라! 드디어 성지다!
Still, I don't want to be getting into this.
Bled white. What does that mean? I think I need to search this on Google. Bled white. Okay. And I also agree that maybe in the Korean dubbing is far better than with English. I'm okay reading subtitles. I have no problem with that. Yeah, I think I would enjoy it more in the Korean dubbing. Okay, let's continue.
Story just yet. Despite all of its many, many faults, the gameplay is worth talking about. By using your right stick, you control the direction and the range your troops move in. By holding a shoulder button, you can expand the minimap and move your forces that way. You can move all your forces at once or cycle through them for individual orders. There is a learning curve to this, and it does explain the slowness of Gerald's campaign. Despite first impressions, there is a shocking amount of depth. For one, with the triggers, you can change the formations of most units. Putting your soldiers in wider formations allows them to move and turn faster. A tight-knit formation can make units sneakier and harder to see. If they have shields, they're better at covering each other from arrows. Each has benefits and drawbacks, and you can be adjusting these almost as much as you're moving your army. However, not every unit uses these formations. In the case of archers, the triggers control how wide or narrow their shots go. If your enemy's position isn't clear or you're fighting from extreme range, you need to make guesses on how you should be shooting. Or, you can send a smaller force or a deployable scout ahead to act as a spotter. Then you can get the exact bombardment width you need. Also take into account the position of your ranged units, where they are relative to the enemy, is the sun in their eyes, is anything in their way? There's a lot of good tactical gameplay to be had, and not all units can be set to attack and forget. With cavalry, you don't want to move them onto the enemy, but instead move through them. They'll barrel through weaker troops and can take out a formation without taking a scratch. You could micro them around for max effectiveness, or set some waypoints in a busy area and hope for the best. Though again, you've got to be thinking carefully. Are there anti-cavalry units in the area? Where a good charge can delete a unit, a bad charge into them can have your own wiped out. So if you're quick and clever enough, you can bait fast movers into spears that they can't turn away from easily. Or in the case of the Dark Legion, the anti-horse throwing axes. Not everything will add up sometimes, it's fine.
Must have an orc for a tailor.
Okay, anti-horse axe-throwing orcs. That's interesting. Yeah, I like the strategic kind of aspect of the game, you know, using your different formations and different soldiers for particular jobs. And sometimes it works out well, sometimes it doesn't, you know, it's the gambles that we take on the battlefield. And I like that. I like that aspect of this game. I'm actually enjoying it more than I expected, you know? Especially like from those first few minutes when I saw it, I'm like, no man, what is this? But then, you know, as I'm going through the video, it really looks fun. I think I might want to take it myself. I might want to download it. It looks fun. Okay, let's continue.
Again, these are just some maneuvering examples. In battle, you have a resource called SP, which might be special points, I don't think they say. But you earn it through general combat and victories, and gain more by pulling off tactical maneuvers. You can then spend these Sun Tzu points on unit abilities. Human archers can use fire arrows to burn down forests and enemy positions. Contrast with Dark Elf archers who can make magic arrows for extra damage. Or summon a magic fancy tree of healing, because of course they do that. There are sappers who can place Burmese tiger pits, landmines, and other toys from the Viet Cong fun box to bait enemies into, though they can also go on anti-trap duty themselves. And sometimes units are led by officers who know magic, so sometimes you send out a blizzard or plunge your enemy into darkness. So while all of this is happening, how does the action hack and slash kick-assing fit into it? It's a tricky situation. It's deceptive because at first it seems undercooked and just kind of bad, when instead it's well thought out, but it doesn't show in the first stages of the game. When a unit led by your hero engages the enemy, the game shifts over into action mode. Both squads engage on their own and you can personally run around slapping people. Each campaign only has one controllable hero. Gerald is your basic sword fight man. I can't say anything bad because I make guys just like him in most RPGs. He hits with a big sword, blocks with a big sword, and hates the orcs.
Oh, all this fried hog. All we need now is some scrambled eggs.
Lucretia of the Dark Legion is
The cliche hero. Fight with the sword, hates orcs. Yeah, kind of obvious there.
about speed and anime bullshit. She can't block, but she can dodge. She likes bullying her ex-boyfriend.
That's my Lucy.
Don't call me Lucy, you gigolo.
Kendall is a slower powerhouse warrior. He carries a mason halberd and is a loyal servant of the Pope. When he wins fights, he's already looking for the next heretic to smash. Rainier is the Dark Lord of Hexter. He has an evil sword and loves running around in a loincloth and World of Warcraft pauldrons. He parries by using the Force and is rumored to be Rick Blood. Of course he's Rick Blood.
I am Rick Blood.
The characters have different fighting styles, but calling what they have movesets would be generous. You have your light and strong attacks and maybe 2 or 3 unique combos per character. They also have a special execution move that does more damage but costs SP. If the hero's unit has officers in it, they can also spend SP to use the unique officer assist attack. These can be helpful, but they're things you've usually picked out far before the battle started. You never have something like a duel with another unique character. You can try to find the enemy unit's officer and kill them. If you pull it off, morale shatters and the squad disintegrates. Certain characters are much better at this. Lucy takes a while, Baywatch Sauron can one-shot them. Usually though, half the challenge is finding the leaders since they don't always stand out. They can often look identical to regular soldiers, and you can only pick one out when you whack one and a health bar pops up. Summed up, there's not a lot of depth to the action mode, which reasonably you might have been expecting more out of, because the Dynasty Warriors in the room is very focused on pulling off combos and special moves. And first, looking at Crusaders, you might expect it to be a Dynasty Warriors clone. The combat here is simpler, but it's because the developers didn't want you stuck too far into it. You still have your troops to cycle back to. Instead of staying completely in the fight, you send out a cavalry charge, or move your archers behind the enemy. Both tactics and pure Unga Bunga hits reward you with SP, which you can use on either. So you could pull off a flank with archers, but then go right back into action mode to pull off an assist move. Crusader
Okay, so far, it looks fun. It is kind of a disadvantage that you don't get to fight against the opponent's hero champion. You get to fight against other officers on the field, and if you kill them, then their army loses confidence in themselves, and probably you will win the battle. Uh, but yeah, this thing of going into your main character's battle perspective and you taking control of that person, I find that quite interesting. Yeah, and the abilities that they have, the fighting abilities, whether it's a light attack or a heavy attack, everything here looks fun. It really does look fun. Definitely, I think I might download this game just to test it out.
This really is about strategy more than anything, and this is reflected by the other side of the game, which is battle preparation. As you win missions, you're awarded with golden experience. Again, this is tied to your SP levels, so the bigger your brain, the more you gain. Your squads all have a level, but it's determined by the leading officer. So experience is spent on them, but really it goes through the whole unit, which at first seems odd, but there is a good reason for this. As long as the unit has the required skills, it can convert into another one freely. An officer could lead spearmen in one mission and then use mortars in the next. Your leaders will be specialized for only a few types, but you do have some flexibility. Due to action mode, your campaign hero is always stuck with a melee unit, but for their underlings, you can adjust all kinds of things around. You could focus on a troop type or unlock a magic specialization. It's also here you learn that troops are resistant and weak to different damage types. Armored knights get owned by lightning, orcs have an innate weakness to ice, and the undead hate learning about Jesus, which in this setting might be Orc Jesus. I may have missed that part. When you're done with experience, you can use the gold to hire more officers and get more options. How many troops you can deploy is limited, so it's not always ideal. Instead, you're usually buying new equipment, which can have all kinds of bonus effects. These are also level restricted, so there is a balancing act between your skills and your money. Playing your cards right, you can get some absurd min-maxing. Like, what if my hero's unit was virtually immune to melee damage, and was constantly self-healing? If you spend a lot of time in action mode, you could give your heroes something like an elemental weapon. There's a lot to play around with, and to add an extra layer of greatness to the system, the units do physically change based on the upgrades. At first glance, it's easy to see Crusaders as a dumb metal mosh pit, but there's so much behind it. You'll never be controlling a huge amount of units, and some, like flyers, are controlled through the D-pad like an ability. This causes some drawbacks later on. The hard campaigns give you a ton of freedom, but what's actually viable is much more limited. Your enemies are far more reactive, and now they cast spells like Merlin has learned he has only a week to live. Later missions become pure endurance. Where healing magic can be incredibly helpful before, you need it now. If you became reliant on abilities instead of movement and formations, that'll really hurt you in these sections. It expects more clever maneuvering from you here than ever.
Change is good, If the game gets harder as you progress through it, I think that's what will make the game more interesting and also more fun to play. If your opponents are using magic, like spamming magic 24/7, like nonstop, then you just have to figure out a way to defeat them. Uh, yeah, don't beg for things. Do it yourself, or else you won't get anything. Yeah, so it's okay.
Before, which is cool and I like that, but it becomes clear a lot of fun options you had before will melt away as the stakes raise. Things can start feeling even more repetitive than they were before. If you like the proper massive battles, there's gonna be a lot of them. So that brings me to the story. The overall points are very simple, but there are finer details I'm not even going to bother to bring up. There's a lot of political details that mainly rely on you knowing about the first game, and other points aren't addressed in this game, but instead in Heroes, which is both a prequel and happening at the same time. So the story isn't all here to begin with. Dark elves are ruled by vampires, but there are high elves who want to rebel, but they use the terms interchangeably.
So Haranadin finally falls under this high elf's feet.
Is this not the first time you're leading an army this large, my dark elf?
And look, I don't give a shit. In the campaign map, you can get some
Are the dark elves monogendered, or what's going on? Because there's only women, and why are they dressed like that? I mean, there's nothing wrong. I'm just saying for battle, it's not really the kind of attire you would wear, but whatever. It's interesting.
story, manage your army, and poke at some lore tidbits. A lot of information can come from eavesdropping at pubs. Gerald's campaign might have the least information here because the pub is full of people complaining about the elves, or as they call them, the darks.
Boss, dogs are coming from the
southwest.
Those darks planned this all along. Look what those darks did to our people. You go to bars where generic rock plays and overhear people loudly complaining about darks. This isn't my first rodeo with this. So unfortunate translation aside, that's probably the most interesting thing in Gerald's campaign. He is the most Xbox game protagonist who wants to wipe out the enemy and get revenge. In retrospect, it's neat, but it's a horribly generic first impression for the campaigns. Lucy's campaign is more entertaining, but also for a dumb reason. Instead of their dialogue being, "We must wipe out the enemy and defeat the evil," they argue constantly. They try to bring up the elf political situation, but it's basically a joke. It's like the cast of the Jersey Shore is trying to do a table reading of the Council of Rivendell, but there was a party the night before where everyone cheated on everyone, so they keep breaking character to yell at each other. They go to meet the Dark Lord of the Orcs, and this is their first reaction.
Rainier has arrived.
Wow. Finally in the flesh. Oh my god, he's ripped.
It does devolve back into dry politics, but good God, it's something. Kendall is also Wipe Out the Enemy Man, but he is uncovering something. His campaign takes a dramatic turn, and I would say the exact same thing about Rick Blood's campaign. Both are fighting for control of the Ancient Heart, but something doesn't seem right. Also, the orcs in his pub really just want to farm. Sometimes they want to use the enemy as fertilizer, but they really love farming. And not all of them want to eat man flesh. These are weird orcs. Anyway, if you don't want spoilers, go to here.
I want the spoilers. I'm here to stay. I want all the spoilers.
Okay, so remember the village burning in the beginning? That was a false flag attack by other humans. Again, the details are in the next game. The Pope received a vision from God to destroy the Ancient Heart, but so did someone else, a man named Walter. Walter was going to make a secret alliance with Dark Elves who didn't like being ruled by vampires to help him find the heart. As you'd expect, this kind of team-up would be very frowned upon, so they had to do it in secret. A nearby villager saw the meeting and ran home. To keep the secret, Walter and his troops would have to slaughter them all. This is the first mission of Walter's campaign in Heroes, and it's pretty brutal. As the war kicks off, Walter does manage to get the heart, but the Pope, for some reason, says that Walter has stolen it. So the Pope uses Kendall to try and hunt him down and retrieve it. Kendall does catch up with Walter, but Walter claims the Pope wants to keep the heart for himself. Why would the Pope not want to break what God told him to? In Rick Blood's campaign, it's revealed that the heart has direct control over him. Whoever has it can directly puppet him, so he's trying to find it for himself to stop this. He breaks away from his own homeland and fights everybody on the way to the heart. He's desperate to control his own destiny. And Gerald...
Okay, so how? How is this Hearthstone controlling Rick Blood? How is it controlling him? Maybe he'll explain further. Yeah, hopefully.
Campaign, he's just the big evil bad guy. And in a terrible slow-motion cutscene, Rick rolls one of his friends directly into oblivion. But he doesn't slaughter everyone else. Then, despite the efforts of everyone, Walter manages to fulfill God's plan and break the heart, giving a pre-rendered cutscene for the first time in the game. Which god did this vision come from? It turns out breaking the heart starts what looks like the Advent. It's kind of amazing. Nothing to this point indicated the game would go to this kind of scale. Anyhow, that's when the Demon Swarm begins. The next missions get different.
Okay. Yeah. Whew. I just need time. I just need time just to process all that I've seen right now. I'm still trying to figure out about Rick Blood being controlled by the heart crystal. Yeah, they didn't really explain much about that. And now there's this demon that just pops out of nowhere and spawning other demons out of itself. That was just weird. And also how it just sucked all those men into itself. That was scary. Yeah, this game is taking a different path now. I mean, in the beginning, we were with Geralt and William and I forgot the other people. Lucy, I think, and the Dark Elves being called uh, Dirks, Darks, yeah, something like that. It kind of reminds me of Skyrim, with the Dark Elves, how they're also always being othered and segregated and discriminated against. It just reminds me of the Dark Elves from Skyrim there. And also, who is it? Rick Blood betraying his friends. It also reminds me of World of Warcraft. Not World of Warcraft, but Warcraft Reforged 3. What's his name? Arthas. Yeah, betraying his friend and mentor, Uther, when he, betrayed him and killed him. Yeah, Rick Blood kind of reminds me of him somehow. And yeah, everything else looks chaotic. Like, literally, the story just flipped, and now we're dealing with demons.
Your enemy is now an apocalyptic swarm of demons. The world is now threatened by a cosmic horror. The demons will consume all of life and usher in the Age of Darkness. Without the heart, Baywatch Sauron will slowly become mortal and one day die. He's just as horrified as everyone else.
What have the humans done? This is Encoblosa. No!
Rick Blood initiates peace talks with
Okay, another word that I must look for on Google. Incomploxa. Okay. Ecoblossa, maybe. Yeah. Alright, I'll come back to this point again just to check it out. Alright.
everyone and unites the world against the threat. He explains that there's a god of light and darkness, but only one can be awake at a time. Whenever the heart deteriorates from the ravages of time, one god awakens and the other goes to sleep. It's actually supposed to be the Age of Darkness, but someone had destroyed the last heart early. So Encablosa, the god of darkness, has success.
Okay, so Incomblosa is the name of a god. Let me just take down the correct spelling for it. Alright. Incomblosa. Alright. I can't really pronounce it, but it's okay.
Fully tricked his time back. Rick Blood becomes the hero in uniting the world and says things that I would never imagine from this character design.
I want to return the world to the Age of Light.
It's far from the first game to pull out the third faction who's a threat to everyone, but it does it in such an interesting and unexpected way. Generic Xbox man and his heroism are just a pawn for greater schemes. Religion itself is mostly wrong and there are just Lovecraftian elder gods. The immortal Dark Lord figure knows all of this and has been working with it in mind. This story has some fascinating elements, but a lot of execution up until now has been terrible.
Heard you might get promoted soon. Way to go, Lucy.
No thanks to you, dumbass.
While this only happens at the tail end of the hard campaigns, they both have the most torturous final mission possible. It's the same for each, too. Pierce the surface of Encablosa with a flying unit, then conduct a ritual to get inside of it. The camera has generally been better in the hard campaigns, but now, this is all trees. Swarms of demons packed inside a giant forest during a snowstorm. And the map is laid out like a canyon that you need to snake through. If you pull it off, the mission then begins a second part, which is killing the avatar of the Dark God from inside of him. I've gotta say, when I started the game, I did not see things going this way. But Halloween is right around the corner. The K-Berserk mission sucks in a lot of ways. It doesn't feel like an ultimate test of your tactics or anything you learned. Inside the Eclipse is slightly better, but it's a slog of a battle up until then. It is fun blowing up demons with artillery, but they managed to make that get old. I should never be tired of shelling demons. When you win, you do get to see it die and explode, which is satisfying, but the epilogues after that are weak. There are a lot of tidbits here, but out of everything, I mainly recall how many ex-girlfriends got credits. Imagine if every game did that. Crusaders is incredibly ambitious, and especially for an Xbox game. There's a lot of strategic depth to it and many ways to play out missions. It's a full-length game just running through all of them once. It is held back by the camera, general clunkiness, and some atrocious sound at points, but a lot of it might already be addressed in a way. There are 7 campaigns and I'm not far in, but what I've played of Heroes fixed a lot of it. The camera behaves way better with obstacles. The fighting flows a little smoother and there's no nuclear cheering.
Good work.
It also has custom battles in it, so there's a lot to dig into. Both the PC versions came out for $20, which is far too expensive for this kind of port. I did ask if they could put it on sale for the video, but I haven't heard back yet, so we'll see. I can recommend Crusaders in the same way you recommend, like, a really violent B-movie. It's violent and silly, and you can't believe some parts they think you'll take seriously. But you can see that this is a cool idea, and you wish they had more time and budget. But maybe that couldn't help as much as you think, because this is so different. Even that comparison doesn't feel fair, because this is a genuinely tactical game. It's something unique. I'm sure there's a lot of people who picked this up for the first time as a kid or a teenager on Xbox, and for them it was an awesome game. In a lot of ways they were right, because the core gameplay holds up. It's just those details that a lot of people take for granted that do hold it back. You know, the idea game won't try to blow up your ears sometimes. That's it for now, but October is coming. I might have time to talk about a smaller horror game or two, because unfortunately for us all, another adventure game video is in the works. One far darker than the Druids. I'll see you then. Maybe.
Oh, God.
Do I like Baldur's Gate? Yeah, but that video is a long ways out. I'm still irritated by what Beamdog did with 1. Thoughts on the buggy launch of the new Pathfinder game? I already assume new games will be all kinds of messed up, and CRPGs is like 10 times that. After Pillars of Eternity 1, I don't play games like that until they've been out at least a few months. Do you remember the first video game that you played? I actually do. It's probably cliche, but it was the original Mario Brothers, and I was playing it with my dad. He was visiting Japanese friends in their country, and he saw their system there, and he learned about games that way. Which is funny, because they had been all over America at this point, and I don't know how he missed it. But I guess I've always been many years behind with games since birth, really. How long do I play a game to see if it's worth the effort? If you mean on my own, unless I've been told something, usually between 2 to 3 hours. If it's for a video, I think I've played to the end every single time. Usually multiple times. Is there an era of games my brain is hardwired to like? Well, I don't know about hardwired, but late 90s and early 2000s ones are generally more interesting. The high-budget games were generally chasing unique ideas over trends. There's still cool AAA stuff now, but a lot of it does blur together. If you're not chasing the biggest budget title, I can't think of a better time to like games. Okay, until next time. Minigame? What minigame?
Well, guys, that's it with Kingdom Under Fire by Mandalore Gaming. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the game looks fun. It looks really fun. I like the strategic aspect of the game. You know, making your own tactics to defeat your enemies, using different types of soldiers, whether they're like, you know, archers or swords and shield, cavalry, pikemen. So yeah, I really like all of that in the game. And the storyline is a bit all over the place. I'm not entirely sure about it completely. Especially in the beginning, it looked like a different story compared to what was happening towards the end of the video. Especially with the demons coming up and Rick Blood being controlled by the Heartstone, and yeah, it's just very different. Maybe if I play the game, maybe I'll understand it a bit further. But yeah, the game looks very entertaining and very fun. It's just the environment, the graphics are very difficult to enjoy, if I can say that, because really it reminds me of games from when I used to play on my PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, you know, kind of games. It's very, it's just not good. It's just not good. It also reminds me of Skyrim, not Skyrim, of Elder Scroll Morrowind, you know, in terms of the graphics. So yeah, it might be a bit difficult for me to enjoy in that kind of aspect. And the metal music, yeah, I'm gonna enjoy it. I'm gonna dance along to it. But I think there'll be some times where I just want to you know, mute the music and just continue on with the game without the metal music. But it's an interesting addition to the game. I must admit, I've never experienced something like this ever since what, Tekken 3, and maybe even Street Fighter 2, when I still had these kind of like, you know, fighting games with metal music behind it, you know. I can't remember this other fighting game that I used to have on PlayStation 2, or was it 1? I can't remember right now. But it had metal music in it as well. I just can't remember the name. But yeah, it's giving me this kind of like nostalgic feeling. Okay, guys, and the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves with their own political situations, and everybody else with their own political situations. I might want to delve deeper into it just to try and understand what's going on. What do they call the Dark Elves? The Darks. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's just so weird. It's just so weird. And what they are wearing to battle, also very weird. I don't know who was the designer for the Dark Elves, but no. No. And what's up with all the ex-girlfriends on the credits? What's going on there? Are you telling me that the ex-girlfriends were contributing to the development of the game? I mean, that's a lot of ex-girlfriends on the list. Wow. Okay. Okay, guys, yeah, that's it. Kingdom Under Fire. I might actually download this game. Okay, guys, remember, if you like the video, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Also, click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I will see you next time. Okay.